So give us your sense about where we are in the global economy right now. What are the prospects for a global recession, do you think?
It's still a big risk, and probably in 2023 we're going to see many countries in recession. Right now we've got both the U.S. and China showing some signs of weakness in the numbers that are coming out, and so that's a big challenge for developing countries. I call it a crisis-facing development because there's so many people in the world living in countries that aren't getting resources right now. They aren't getting capital. They aren't getting fertilizer to make food for next year, and that's a giant challenge.
Well, you just injected something there, I think, and that's the war in Ukraine when it comes to fertilizer, because I know that's affecting it quite a bit. How big a factor in the risk that you describe is what's going on in Ukraine?
That is big. The crops themselves coming out of Ukraine, and some is coming out through the Black Sea. But the bigger issue is there was such a dependency on Russia for energy. And to make fertilizer, you start with natural gas and go from there. And so the crop cycle is getting disrupted. There's a big realignment going on of energy toward Europe for this winter and even for next winter. So the contracts are extending out, and that just means that I'm afraid this is going to be a long slowdown for the developing world.
The economic uncertainties and, yes, pressures are not felt equally around the world, and your job is to look at the world overall. Where do you see the biggest crisis points coming up?
That there's not capital flowing into the developing world. Some of it is their own situations, and they can improve that with better policies. But a big chunk of it is the advanced economies are taking so much capital from the world store or pool of capital. They're doing that to fund the fiscal deficits, to fund their COVID response, and now looking forward to try to get through these higher energy prices that are coming through. I think the solution, if I can say, is more production. So, and especially the advanced economies, they have the capital and the means to really ramp up production, and that's still the missing piece. That's not happening right now.
But as an economist, do they have as much capital as they used to? Because we have central banks, Federal Reserve, ECB, BOE, all tightening now because of the risk of inflation. Is that putting even more pressure on that scarce capital?
Capital is created by profit, by people creating new things. So the central banks don't really stop that. And I think they could do more to encourage it, produce more capital in the world and make it grow faster. What they're doing is changing the interest rate. And I think interest rates have been kept at zero too long. So there's this long repricing that's going on of assets right now to reflect a more normal interest rate.
But as a practical matter, the creation of capital does affect productivity because of investment, and you discourage investment. Are there things that can or should be done right now to encourage investment to get the productivity so you have the more profits that you can invest?
Small businesses are key in this. They create the jobs for young people to come in to bring people off the sidelines. For the U.S., there's this problem of lack of participation in the labor force. Well, small businesses can fix that. But right now, the capital is going to the government and to big businesses. That's been the system for almost a decade now. And so I think that could change. The government policy could be more oriented toward allowing production and especially small business production.
And finally, David, give us a minute here on China, if you would, because we've seen a lot of disruption in China recently. It seems to be getting a little bit better because of the COVID-19 restrictions, but the China growth is slowing.
That's right. So I don't know about better. I think they could use a recalibration, more targeting of their lockdowns, not such blanket lockdowns. They could be vaccinating the elderly. But China is really important. It's the world's second biggest economy and has lots of swing production. So at a time when the world is having an inflation problem, it'd be good if China began to produce more, and that means getting people off of the lockdowns.